Hello, this is Miranda Quintero here. I am going to talk about the Assure lesson plan that we did on copyright. This was a collaborative effort that all four group members did over a Zoom meeting and Google Docs, so we have been fully collaborative in this entire process. So starting off with A, analyze learners. These are the general characteristics of our students. We had a class of 20 students with sixth graders, 11 to 13-year-olds, 11 boys and 9 girls, 5% with IEPs or 504s, 10% were GT, 40% ELLs, and the group we said was highly inquisitive and generally well-behaved. We wanted to make sure that it was kind of a realistic representation of what a middle school classroom looks like. Continuing with analyzing the learners, we said our entry competencies were the following. Prior to instruction, the students were able to do the following: basic word processing using Google Docs or Microsoft Word, able to perform simple online searches, and comprehensive knowledge of Google Classroom and Padlet. We said that this would be not something done obviously in the beginning of the school year, it would be after some time, and we were going to make sure that they really knew how to use Google Classroom and Padlet because those would be the two digital platforms that we would be using. Continuing with analyze learners, learning differences and needs, we said that this is a highly engaged group that loves technology, enjoys working in groups, so we're going to pander to that, and motivated through verbal reinforcement. Continuing with the state standards and objectives, these are the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, or TEKS, that we pulled out. Sixth grade 12 DG and I talk about gathering relevant information from sources, differentiating between paraphrasing and plagiarism, and creating academic citations and using source materials ethically. So that the lecture goes through all of that and provides them hopefully with the skills that they need to be able to do that. With 40% of our class population being ELLs, we would be remiss not to include the ELPS, the English Language Proficiency Standards. So 6th through 8th grade, point 5 talks about proficiency level 4 being the advanced high, that they can gather information from multiple print and digital sources. They can use search terms effectively, quote or paraphrase, as appropriate, and citing sources. We also included the International Society for Technology and Education standard of 2C. Students demonstrate an understanding of and respect for the rights and obligations of using and sharing intellectual property. We talk a lot about intellectual property in the lecture, so we wanted to make sure that that standard was included. And finally, the learning objectives. We said that students will be able to define vocabulary associated with copyright rules, so the vocabulary is first. Students will be able to demonstrate knowledge of copyright rules, so they have to show that they actually understood and internalized what we taught. The students will analyze copyright information and apply fair use rules. So within their activity, they have to determine, is this fair use? Is this not fair use? And the student will be able to apply copyright rules to their own use of intellectual property. So being able to say, okay, this is where I got this from, and not plagiarizing something unintentionally. So S is for select strategies and resources. Some of the strategies include teacher-centered and student-centered strategies. The teacher ones are the teacher hooking the students with a popular song playing by Mark Ronson. Then the teacher lectures through PowerPoint about common copyright cases, vocabulary, and rules. The teacher explains the activity for the students to begin. Now, the student-centered activities include think, pair, share about copyright information. Then the students will brainstorm questions about certain copyright situations. They will conduct their own web research with partners, so that's partners strategies, about copyright using the Padlet. And then the last student-centered strategy will be completing the copyright court. Students will read fictional court cases about copyright infringement and determine as a mock jury if copyright rules were violated. In the end, students will complete an exit ticket about copyright rules. So now the resources. The lesson involves computers or one-to-one devices where students can access the handout, which we decided we're going to put on Google Classroom as a digital place, and also using the class Padlet to conduct their own research. Once they are completing the mock trial portion, they're going to stow away their devices to foster conversation. However, when they complete their exit ticket, they will go back to their Google Classroom and access the exit ticket there. Under selecting strategies and resources, alignment with the standards and outcomes, Google Classroom Handout and the Padlet provide the necessary platforms for students to meet the objectives. Is the information accurate and current? Well, the information on the Padlet is current and accurate about copyright laws. Copyright law, being age appropriate, is a little bit above grade level for sixth graders, but the handout and the lecture will provide the necessary background to assist with this lesson. Interest level and engagement, students will collaborate with a partner and in a whole class setting as a jury to complete assignments for this lesson. This is socially and academically engaging. Free choice of resources from the Padlet makes the learning interesting. Technical quality, the Google Classroom and Padlet have high technical quality. Ease of use. Using Google Classroom and Padlet are very easy and intuitive for use with this grade level. This grade level has the computer skills necessary to navigate the digital resources of Google Classroom and Padlet. And like I said before, we wanted to make sure that this is not a lesson on the first day, so the students already have background with Google Classroom and using Padlet. Bias-free, Google Classroom and Padlet will be bias-free. In user guide and directions, students will be in pairs and can ask each other for help. The teacher will be going around the room to support. Now under the U for utilize resources. Previewing the resources, the teacher creates and previews the Google Classroom handout, the Padlet, and the mock trial court cases to ensure its accuracy and functionality. The teacher makes sure that all the links are working properly. Preparing the resources, the teacher prepares the materials for the lesson. The things include the PowerPoint for the lecture, the handout that's created in the digital format for Google Classroom, compiling resources for students to use on the Padlet, the mock trial court cases that are created and a copy is prepared for the class, and then the teacher makes sure all of the components of the lesson work. Preparing the environment, the teacher will this will take place in the classroom, so the teacher will make sure that the interactive whiteboard is working, that the students have their one-to-one devices, the projector needs to be tested before use, and the classroom should be converted into a mock courtroom. Preparing the learners. To prepare students for this lesson, the teacher introduces the lesson and reviews the learning objectives. Then the teacher discusses the setup of a courtroom and its various roles to prepare students for their mock trial. The teacher will review the rubric before instruction begins. Providing the learning experience. The learning experience happens in the classroom with student-centered and teacher-centered activities. The students use computers to learn about copyright rules, research more information, and successfully complete a mock trial about the use of copyright laws. R is requiring learner participation. To be able to do this, the large group activities will be the lecture lesson that the teacher gives about copyright laws. The students will demonstrate knowledge of copyright through partner research and role-playing scenarios, so that's still kind of whole group. Independent activities is when the students view the digital handout about copyright rules, and then at the end when they do the exit ticket after the mock trial. And then partner activities will be when they collaborate through the Think, Pair, Share to discuss copyright and then using devices to view the handout and the Padlet. And finally, the E, evaluate and revise. Through the assessment of learner achievement, teachers can assess the student knowledge through active engagement in the Think, Pair, Share, mock trial, and the exit ticket with the usage of a teacher-created rubric that is included. Evaluation of strategies and resources. Analyze each portion of the lesson for student participation, engagement, and learning outcomes. And then the revision. The evaluation shows that students enjoyed working in pairs to do more research about copyright laws because they got to ask their partner when they did not understand something. They were highly engaged during the mock trial, but there were a few scenarios that were contentious. They felt like copyright in those cases were not very black and white, so it got confusing. In subsequent lessons, the teacher chooses to allow students to take the court cases home to review and form opinions before the mock trial happens on a different day.